So the snow caused major damage to the tiny house. And I'll get into that in just a little bit. Of course, I want to give you some history on everything we've done and everything the commenters have warned me about over the last 3 years. Of course, they're always right. I've been wrong every time. Now, something that I have struggled with this year alone, I don't understand this, is no matter what I do here, this year, this thing keeps collapsing. First 2 years that we've had this, I've not had any problems with it. I come down about every couple hours, I sweep off the snow, nothing. This time it just, maybe it's because it's weak, I don't know. Well, anyway, I can fix that. It's just this one side here that collapsed. Now, this morning when I woke up, it was raining at 5 a.m. Well, I guess it was 4:30. I actually woke up a little early. And by 6:30, you couldn't see the ground. It switched to snow and was sticking that fast. It was pretty incredible. I don't think I've ever seen it like this before. And I would say there's a good 3 or 4 inches. It only snowed for a couple hours. I wasn't really expecting that much snow or rain. Carolyn hung her laundry up yesterday. She hung a blanket up over the rail of the bridge, and it has blown away somewhere. You would think it would be hanging from a tree or something, but it must be covered in snow. Who knew? I mean, I love the snow, don't get me wrong. We've actually had very little this year, considering. We had some in November, and then it got really cold in December, -8, but no snow. One of the things that people always warn me about is my well house here. The well house sticks out 2 feet on each side, the roof does. That way, water stays away from the well itself. So that you get about 4 feet distance between the well center and the edge of the roof here. And then I have a French drain that runs all the way around the edge of the roof. That way water falls down into the French drain and rolls on down the hill. Any water that comes down the hill will fall into the French drain and drain out. But a lot of people said this would collapse too, because I got that 2 feet just hanging out there. Wanted me to put legs there on the corners, but I've not had any problems with it. My concern about putting legs on it was I would hit it with the lawnmower and I'd have to replace it all the time. I figured if it got to sagging or anything, I would sweep the snow off. I tell you, this snow is really heavy. Now, I built the tiny house. There may be some viewers left that watch me build a tiny house, but I documented every step of the way, at least portions of it. We started with the floor, and we started that pretty early. Well, of course, we cleared the trailer. There was a trailer here. Well, you can see the trailer tongue sticks out there. So we had to clear that trailer off. The mobile home, it had all fallen down. I'd actually just watched a video this morning, my video, of when I was cleaning it up. And then we built the floor, and then we kind of stalled for a while because of the pandemic, prices of materials. And we made a commitment that we were only going to spend $500 a month building it. So Carolyn was searching Facebook Marketplace for materials, anything we could find. So we found OSB, she did, on Facebook Marketplace for, I think, $7 a sheet. Might have been $4 a sheet, I don't remember, but it was like really cheap. And I told him the price that Home Depot was selling it for. We didn't take it all. I mean, we only took a few sheets, whatever we needed. When we left, she'd check Facebook Marketplace again, and he'd raise the prices up to, now this number does stick in my head, $9 a sheet. Again, I don't know if that's right, but that's what sticks in my head. Then by the fall time, we had everything we needed. And I was able to really hit it hard. And it only took me maybe, I don't know, let's say I started in September. By January, it was all done. So we started the floor in the spring, got all the materials, started again in September, and by January it was all finished. We had the wood stove installed, everything. It was getting pretty cold. We had this huge, massive cold front that came down, and it lasted a long time. I think it was a week. That's when Texas got slammed so hard with all that cold weather and their electric went out. This is the only wall that Carolyn helped me with. I don't know why I asked her for help, but she was up here and I said, hey, help me lift this up. But she helped me. And then I thought, you know what? I should document this of me building the whole thing by myself, because a lot of people said, oh yeah, I could do that in a week with a friend. Well, about that time, I got into this self-sufficient thing, and I wanted everybody to know that you can do things by yourself. And I showed how, if I needed a board held, how I would make a jig that would hold the board up on one end while I screwed it up on the other end. I take the ladder, screw it up on the opposite end. A lot of neat little things I came up with to hold things, And then I built the trusses myself. So it's a triangle truss. My dad sent me a drawing on the truss. I mean, I had no idea how to cut an angle. So what I did was I laid everything out on the floor. And then I cut my first one. I figured if I mess it up, it's no big deal, it's my first one. And so I cut each piece, and then I drew along the edges of all the first pieces on the floor. Then I put screws next to the 2x4s. And that way I had a jig. So all I had to do was lay a board down to make sure everything was lined up. So that first one I made, I used as a jig, as a reference. I didn't put that one together. The next one I made, I would draw off the first one. I'd lay my cut board on top of my non-cut board, draw it out, cut it. That way everything was identical. So my first truss was exactly the same, cut exactly the same as my 9th truss. There was 9 of them. I lay each one on the floor in my screwed down jig. I mean, that's the jigs that held everything in place. It's hard to explain now, but everything was held in place, and I'd screw it all together, slide it up there, it'd hang upside down. Once I had them all done, I would just slide them into place, hold it up, and it was complicated. I would have to hold and screw the whole thing myself. There was a lot of things I didn't know how to do. I didn't know how to build this overhang here, so Dad sent me a video. That wasn't hard. We were gonna make the attic a loft. I told you that in several videos now. But things came up and we just decided, nah, we don't really need the space. We were gonna make it a storage space is what we were gonna do. One thing after another, and we decided, well, I guess we won't ever do it. Well, I just went up there recently, and I told you in a previous video that we have moisture up there. Fortunately, we don't have mold. But see, the thing is a lot of the commenters said that I was gonna have to put vents in this. Again, I didn't want to because I was gonna make a loft. Well, the first year went by, we didn't have any moisture. Second year went by, we didn't have any moisture. Well, this year we got moisture. So I put some vents in on both sides. I got 3 vents here and 3 vents on the other side. And then I put, I think this is called the fascia board. Then I cut holes in the fascia board, 5 of them on each side. And I put a screen over it so bugs can't get in it. And I tell you, it was kind of neat. As soon as I cut the hole, you could see air coming down. Things moving, like the cobwebs up there, they'd start moving almost instantly because the air was coming out of it. So that tells me the attic was colder than the outside temperature, because cold air falls, hot air rises. So that means we immediately started getting a breeze in there. Now, these vents are supposed to be used like this, and it's supposed to keep rain out. Well, we'll see. This morning when it was raining, this is the north wall, so behind me is north, and wind was just blowing as hard as it could. So I'll have to climb up there and see if rain got in there. That was my concern, drilling a big hole and all of a sudden now water gets in it, which I was trying to prevent in the first place. Hanging on those vents. The center of the hole is only 11 inches down from the roof. I had to drop it down that far because there's bracing there on the other side that I had to miss. But there was a lot of things that people told me wasn't gonna work. It seems really strange that a lot of things did work, but the one thing they did say would fail after the first snow was the porch. And boy, wasn't the first snow, but they were right. I mean, look at this. Busted up right here, just cracked it. And after that cracked, the whole thing started to fall down. This is busted up here, so now it's all sagging. This is very dangerous for me to be up under here. Now, when I did all the measurements on this, this was supposed to hold more weight than my truck weighs. I forget what the measurements were, but this is all 2x6s. You can Google all this information. It tells you how much weight each board can hold. Now, when I built it, I didn't drive these posts into the ground. I put them in a bucket and I poured concrete. The idea was just stabilize it. I want to be able to move this. If I ever wanted to move the house, I need to be able to move the porch. Well, that didn't work either. You can see that it has completely failed. So this is double boarded. So that's a 4x4, basically, 2 2x4s. So the first one sits on top of the porch itself, and the other one comes down here. The porch is completely independent of the house. This does not get screwed into the house or anything. What I did to hold it all together was this right here is held to the bridge. The bridge, however, is screwed into the porch, so it all kind of interconnects a little bit. That bridge doesn't work either. You can see that we walked on it and fell through. popped right through it. So this is absolutely the most dangerous thing I ever built. I didn't realize, I mean, look at that, it just fell right down. Now don't believe your lying eyes. This is obviously had fallen down after this big snow. I mean, this is a pretty heavy snow. Never build a porch with 2x6s. A porch roof, it just won't hold. I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do. I mean, I've seen porches like this all my life, and I'm not sure what's so special about their porches compared to my porch. But yeah, it's the commenters were right. Obviously, I'm joking. And that's what's so frustrating about being on YouTube. I want to share the possibilities with everybody. I want to share that you can do things by yourself. I want to share that life doesn't have to be that complicated. Somebody will watch my video and say, that ain't gonna work. Nope, can't do that. Now, as much as you try to ignore that information, but when you're getting hundreds of people telling you it's not gonna work, you do start to doubt yourself. One of the things that people told me wasn't gonna work is screws. I use screws, not nails, for all my connections. This whole house is built on screws. People don't do research. They just believe what they're told. Screws hold things together really tight, better than nails. But screws have a shear breakage point. They can break at so many pounds. Whereas nails tend to bend, they don't actually break. They were telling me that this house would fall down pretty quickly because I use screws. But if you do the calculations, I don't quote me, but I believe each screw can hold 90 pounds. So I got 4 screws, there's 400 pounds on one side, 400 pounds on the other side. That's 800 pounds of weight that this has to hold in a 2-foot span. There's no way 400 pounds is ever gonna fall on this porch. And if it does, I'm gonna be out there like the people are in Alaska and sweeping it off. I mean, you gotta use some common sense. Like the chicken coop, I should have went out a little bit earlier and swept the chicken coop off. But you can get on Google, you can find out how much snow weighs per foot and all that stuff. It's all out there. And that's what's so strange is today we have the technology to give you all the information you could possibly want in the entire world. But it's easier to get on YouTube. Yup, can't do that. And discourage everybody from doing anything, including yourself. So if you'll click this up next box, take you to a video where I'm showing you about these vents. So if I can inspire you to say you can do it. Thanks for watching.